Okay, in this video we'll talk through how to approach the small mark questions on Edexcel English Language Paper 2. We'll look at the skills needed to be successful on questions 1, 2, 4 and 5 by looking at 2 student responses. So feel free to pause the video at any point if you need time to read through what's on screen. Just like on Paper 1, the small mark questions on this paper examine Assessment Objective 1. That's your ability to identify and interpret explicit and implicit information and ideas. In other words, pulling out the facts that are clearly stated and the ones that are implied. For questions 1 and 2, you'll need to find 2 pieces of information from the text per question, and you'll be taking your answers from the first text. For questions 4 and 5, you'll only need to find 1 piece of information per question, and you'll be taking your answers from the second text. Other than that, the process of finding the information is exactly the same. You should circle the focus of the question, identify the section of the text you need to get the answer from, and then select a valid quotation that answers the question. As all of the questions require the same skill, we're only going to look at student responses to question 2. The question asks you to identify 2 ways that the writer shows the area is frightening, in lines 13 to 18. So the focus should be on words or phrases that help show fear, or things to be frightened of. Let's start by looking at student A's response. The first answer this student gives doesn't get the mark. This is because even though it's a quotation from the correct part of the text, it doesn't actually show that the area is frightening. The phrase, walking up a long street, helps the reader to visualize the area, but the words themselves don't explicitly link to the fearful setting. The second answer, as if I had breathed fear from the air, does answer the question, and so it does get the mark. Moving on to student B's response, we can see that the 2 answers here would both be awarded marks. The first answer uses a direct quotation from the text, "People did not move on the streets at night," which is relevant to the question. The student has correctly inferred that people don't go out at night because the area is dangerous and therefore frightening. For the second answer, the student has mixed some of their own words with a quotation to gain the mark. By writing that the streets are dark because the street lamps were scarce and dim, the student has made a valid point. The quotation on its own would have been enough for the mark, though. With the small mark questions, one of the key tricks is to write just enough to get the marks so that you have more time for the other questions. Let's leave it there. It's a great idea to get some practice in before the exam, so why not try some past papers and see how you do with AO1? You could take a look over the questions and text in our example paper attached to this pod. Good luck!